There's a peculiar kind of pain that doesn't fade, it lingers like perfume on an old letter, a presence that refuses to leave even after love has turned to ash. You think you've moved on, yet a single memory can resurrect them with frightening precision, a scent, a phrase, a song, and suddenly, you're right back in the orbit of the person who hurt you most. It's not logic. It's not choice. It's something older, something buried in the psyche's foundations. Carl Jung once said that every relationship is a psychic experiment, an unconscious attempt to meet what lives inside us, and sometimes, that experiment burns. You meet someone and it feels like recognition, as if you've known them 1,000 years. The conversation flows, the air changes, and their presence makes you feel seen in a way the world never managed to, but underneath that enchantment hides something dangerous, because the psyche is not seeking comfort, it is seeking completion. The people who wound us often touch the very edges of our own incompleteness. They awaken the unlived parts of us, the anger we swallowed, the tenderness we buried, the chaos we feared. And in that moment, something ancient ignites. You don't just fall in love. You fall into recognition, not of them, but of the forgotten self mirrored back at you through their eyes. This is why obsession feels sacred, because in the language of the soul, it is, you think you're yearning for their touch, but you're yearning to reclaim the pieces of you that only they could awaken. Every human being carries an invisible image of wholeness, what Jung called the self, but that image is buried beneath layers of persona and shadow. The persona is the mask we wear for acceptance. The shadow is everything we exile to wear that mask. Then one day, the mask slips, someone enters our life and looks past it. They see through our performance, straight into our unguarded self. In their gaze, we glimpse who we might be without fear, and that is both intoxicating and terrifying, because to see ourselves clearly is to realize how much we betrayed who we truly are. The mirror doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it reflects the divine and the damaged all at once. And when that reflection suddenly turns away, when the person who mirrored your forgotten soul withdraws, the pain feels cosmic, not just heartbreak. Loss of meaning, because they didn't just take love with them. They took the reflection. Jung believed that the soul communicates through symbols, not words. When a person captivates you beyond reason, it's often because they embody an archetype within your unconscious, the lover who cannot stay, the savior who disappoints, the destroyer who awakens. They aren't just themselves, they are the living expression of a story your soul has been trying to finish for lifetimes. And until you understand that story, you will keep repeating it. This is why you find yourself haunted by the same kind of people, again and again, different faces, same energy. It isn't punishment. It's revelation. The psyche repeats what it doesn't resolve. Each heartbreak is an initiation, inviting you to finally meet the part of yourself that keeps choosing the wound. So the question isn't why did they hurt me? It's what in me needed this mirror to finally see itself. When love collapses, the ego fractures. All the stories you told yourself about who you were and what you deserved begin to crumble. The persona, that fragile mask of stability, starts to slip, revealing the chaos underneath. And this is where most people flee. They fill the void with noise, with distractions, with new faces. But those who stay, who dare to look into the mirror even as it shatters, they become something rare. Because when the reflection breaks, it reveals what was never a reflection at all. The original image beneath it, pain, in this light, is not punishment, it is revelation. It's the fire that burns away everything false so that only the truth can remain. Jung called this moment the night sea journey, the descent of the ego into the depths of the unconscious. It's where you meet the shadow in its purest form, the abandoned self who has been waiting for you beneath every heartbreak. If you listen closely in that darkness, you'll hear a voice. It's faint at first, a whisper of grief, of anger, of longing. That voice is your shadow. It doesn't want revenge. It wants recognition. It wants you to admit how much of yourself you've handed to others just to feel loved. Every time you gave too much, stayed too long, forgave too quickly, it was your shadow trying to be seen through someone else's eyes, because you were taught that your worth depended on being needed. That love had to hurt to be real, but here, in the ruin of that illusion, the shadow finally speaks. Stop giving your light away. Learn to hold it. And when you do, when you start to gather those fragments of yourself from the wreckage, the mirror begins to change, the image of the one who hurt you starts to blur, because the reflection no longer has power over you once you integrate what it showed. There comes a night when the longing becomes unbearable, not for them, but for the wholeness you once felt in their presence. You cry, not because you miss them, but because you realize they were never truly there, they were a symbol. A projection. A myth your soul used to wake itself. This is the breaking point, the threshold between obsession and awakening, the moment you stop asking, why did they leave? And begin asking, what did I find in myself when they did? That's when the alchemy begins. The same energy that once bound you to pain starts to transmute into power. The mirror no longer enslaves, it reveals, and the wound becomes the doorway back to your own depth. When the mirror shatters, something remarkable happens. You begin to see not your reflection, but light leaking through the cracks. That's the first sign of awakening, when pain stops being an enemy and starts becoming a teacher. Carl Jung once said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The mirror's destruction forces this illumination upon you. You are no longer chasing the person who hurt you. You are chasing the meaning they carried, and finding that meaning leads straight into the architecture of your soul. Healing doesn't begin when you forget them, it begins when you remember yourself. You start piecing together fragments that had long been scattered, the child who stopped believing in softness, the dreamer who stopped creating, the wild heart that stopped trusting its own rhythm. Each fragment is retrieved through pain, polished by tears, and placed carefully back into the mosaic of your being. The psyche, Jung wrote, is self-healing by nature. It will orchestrate experiences, even heartbreak, to bring lost aspects of the self back into consciousness. So, the one who broke you is not a mistake, they were a messenger. When you understand this, bitterness dissolves, because you see the truth. They didn't reject you. They completed their role in your awakening. The mirror was never meant to last forever. It was meant to break you open. In the stillness that follows heartbreak, the unconscious begins to reorder itself. Archetypes, those vast, ancient symbols that guide our inner life, start to reveal their true faces. The lover transforms into the creator, the victim evolves into the sage, the shadow becomes the guardian. You begin to notice how every past obsession was really an initiation into a deeper archetypal energy. The person who rejected you embodied your anima, the inner feminine, source of intuition and beauty. The person who controlled you mirrored your shadow, the hidden power you feared to claim. The person who betrayed you reflected your trickster, the force that shatters illusions so you can see truth. This is Jung's great revelation. You do not meet people by accident. You meet symbols in human form, each one carrying a key to the inner kingdom. The next stage is alchemy, the transformation of pain into consciousness, not by suppression, but by integration. You sit with your grief until it starts to speak in its own language. You face the loneliness until it teaches you how to be whole. You embrace the shadow until it ceases to frighten you. Every emotion becomes raw material for transmutation. Anger becomes clarity, desire becomes devotion, loss becomes vision. And from these ashes, something golden begins to form, not the fragile identity of who you thought you were, but the eternal self who has been waiting beneath every mask. That self is not desperate for love, it is love, vast, uncontainable, and complete in itself. There's a moment, deep into healing, when silence stops feeling like emptiness and starts feeling like truth. You realize that solitude isn't the absence of connection, it's the presence of essence. You stop grasping for validation because you no longer need mirrors to see yourself. You've become the mirror. From this stillness, you begin to sense others differently. You see not their masks, but their myths. You feel their pain beneath their laughter, their longing beneath their cruelty. Empathy sharpens, not because you're softer, but because you've descended into your own depths and returned with eyes that can finally see. This is individuation, Jung's term for the soul's ultimate purpose. To become whole, to reconcile the opposites within, and to live from the self rather than the ego. It's not enlightenment as escape. It's enlightenment as embodiment, to walk in the world, wounded and luminous at once. The final movement of the journey is not isolation, but return. You re-enter life not as someone who seeks mirrors, but as someone who is one, a vessel through which others glimpse their own hidden light. You love again, but differently, no longer to fill a void, but to share abundance. You forgive, not to absolve, but to free your energy from the gravitational pull of resentment. And when someone new appears, you no longer ask, "Will they complete me?" You ask, "What part of my soul are they here to reveal?" This is maturity of the heart, to engage without clinging, to love without losing yourself, to see others not as salvation, but as sacred reflections. You have become the philosopher and the mystic, the student and the teacher, the mirror and the light. When Jung wrote about the self, he described it as the union of opposites, the point where shadow and light, masculine and feminine, mortal and divine, all converge. That convergence is happening within you. Every heartbreak was a step toward it, every loss a dismantling of illusion, every obsession a coded invitation to meet yourself. And when you finally arrive there, when you stand within your own wholeness, the obsession dissolves completely, because you no longer need to chase what you already are. You see that the ones who hurt you were never your enemies, they were sacred mirrors, reflecting the way home. So if you still dream of the one who broke you, let the dream come, don't fight it. Don't judge it, look deeper, ask what part of you still seeks integration through their image, then, bless that image and let it go. The mirror has served its purpose. Now, the light it reflected belongs entirely to you. Walk with it, create with it, love with it, and when you meet another mirror, as you inevitably will, you'll smile, knowing the truth Jung spent a lifetime teaching, that what we call fate, love, and loss are not accidents. They are the soul's way of seeing itself again and again until there is nothing left.